Welcome back, everybody. It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. Super excited here. It's Wednesday, right before week one, so I wanted to go ahead and get you guys some start sits here. I'm going to cover these every single week. I'm going to split it into two videos each week, trying to give you guys more information over the back half. So obviously, we're going to get a lot of information as the week goes on, especially as we get closer and closer, or further and further along in the regular season. Ahead of week one, we probably don't have too many question marks here, at least in terms of like injuries and all that, but really great to have that information later in the week. So I'll split this video into two parts every single week. We will cover the first 8 games of the week today, and then on Friday, you guys will get the final eight games of the week. So should be a lot of fun. We have Thursday Night Football tomorrow. That's super exciting today, I guess, when you guys are watching this. I also have a Friday night game. Friendly reminder with all these videos, I'm going to remind you in all of part one, so all the way throughout the season. But if you have players playing either on Thursday or Friday night, make sure you take those guys out of your flex. Give yourselves the optionality of moving your roster around later on in the week. Give yourself that flexibility. Using your flex spot on Thursday or Friday is just typically not something I would recommend, so please try not to do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to go game by game, go over which players I would and would not be starting, and hopefully you guys find that useful. If there are any players I don't mention, feel free to let me know in the comments, and hopefully you guys enjoy. Let's get into it. So we're going to start things off here with Week 1, Thursday Night Football. Opening night, we've got the Cowboys going to Philadelphia. Should be a really fun opening game, honestly. Divisional matchup, Cowboys, a lot of turmoil surrounding them right now. We probably expect this game to be a little bit one-sided. The Eagles have an elite defense here. Dallas does not. I think the Eagles are going to have a pretty easy time moving the ball up and down the field. Dak, low-end streaming option here. The weapons are there. I like Dak over the course of the season, but this matchup does not excite me. Like, if I drafted Dak and another decent option later, I'd probably look at that decent option. I'd personally play Trevor Lawrence over him this week. So if you have a player in like that tier, I think it's okay. But if Dak's your only quarterback, I don't think you need to go actively looking to like cut him to look for someone else this week. Javonte Williams, desperation play at running back 2. Obviously, hopefully you drafted him to be something other than a weekly starter for you, but if you absolutely need to, the volume should be there. I think the Cowboys will be trailing in this one, so I think there's a good shot he at least catches like 3 to 4 passes this week. If he does that, he'll be okay for fantasy, at least in a full PPR. For Pickens, he seems like the biggest question mark for the Cowboys this week. I think he's a decent flex option, but again, I don't really like the matchup. It feels like you're probably going to need Pickens to come through with like 1 or 2 really long catches to really give you guys a solid fantasy outing. I personally have him in a league. I was torn on my flex between George Pickens and DeAndre Swift. As it stands right now, and I feel pretty confident in it, I'm going to be going with DeAndre Swift this week. It's in a half PPR. I like Swift quite a lot as well as here. Don't have a great matchup for Swift either against the Vikings, though. So, it just gives you a little bit of context in terms of, the kinds of decisions I think I'd be making. I think Pickens is, a low-end flex play, but obviously with a really high ceiling. You're playing CeeDee Lamb every single week. I would prefer to sit Jake Ferguson. I think Jake Ferguson's an okay streaming option. Should have a decent season, but again, tough matchup, low over-under or low implied total for the Cowboys. I don't like that. For the Eagles, you're starting all of them. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Devonta Smith. Those 4 guys are all in for sure. If you want to play Dallas Goedert, I think you could do that as well. Again, this is a pretty great matchup for the Eagles. A lot of implied points there. Anybody on the Eagles is a great shot to score this week. Next up, we've got the Chiefs at the Chargers. It's a Brazil game, so, home game for the Chargers, but not really. It's in Brazil. I think for the Chiefs, you're probably starting Patrick Mahomes, Xavier Worthy, and Travis Kelce. I can't imagine you're sitting either one of those 3 if you drafted them. All 3 of those guys, aside from maybe Mahomes. But, Mahomes, there's no way you drafted a second quarterback very high, so you're playing Mahomes. Worthy and Kelce, they're both going to be at their best to start the season while Rashee Rice is out, so if you have them, you definitely are going to play those guys. With Isaiah Pacheco, I think you can play him as a low-end running back too. I would play him over guys like Javonte Williams, but again, I don't think there's we don't really know exactly what's going to happen with this Chiefs backfield, so if you have better options, I'm okay looking elsewhere this week. Generally I'd prefer to just wait and see if I can, but, running back's really tough. Pacheco's decent, at least a decent option, so you can play him if you need to. That's about it for the Chiefs, though. It'll be interesting to see what the wide receiver room looks like behind Xavier Worthy. I think we're going to see a lot of Hollywood, a lot of Tyquan Thornton. It's really interesting to see what happens there. I don't want to play any of those guys just yet, but we'll see what happens behind Worthy for sure. For the Chargers, Amarian Hampton, he's in for me. Again, you probably drafted him in the 3rd round, maybe the 4th round, depending on when you drafted. But you don't really have better options in general there. The matchup's tough. The Chiefs are a really good defense against the run. Najee Harris should be active in this one, so you're not going to get Hampton getting 30 touches in this one. Don't panic if Amarian Hampton goes out there and doesn't have a great week 1. I can't imagine looking to sit him, but again, I'm not exactly expecting this to be a ceiling performance for the Chargers or the running game for Los Angeles. For the passing game, I don't really want to play any other Chargers other than Ladd. I think Ladd is, going to be a stud over the course of the season. This could be a game that the Chargers need to put up a lot of points in. I think Ladd's certainly going to be peppered with targets. I like him quite a bit this week. Keenan Allen, he's a PPR flex option if you need him. I hope you have better options, but if you're in a deeper league, you could go there. I would just prefer to see if we could. Yeah, I want to see what that wide receiver room shakes out like before I trust Keenan if I can. And I'd prefer not to stream Justin Herbert here. Again, tough matchup against the Chiefs. Herbert hasn't necessarily been fantasy relevant for a couple of years, so I want to see it with this offense before I trust it. They will probably need to put up some points against the Chiefs. You could maybe play Herbert, but again, I don't think you drafted him as like the only guy you're starting. I think you can probably find someone better than Herbert this week. So we got a pretty fun game between the Dolphins and the Colts. Two pretty bad defenses and some offenses that I think have some upside this season. For the Dolphins, it's pretty easy. You're starting Achane, you're starting Waddle, and you're starting Tyreek. If you need it, I think you can start Tua as well. Again, you probably didn't draft Tua as a guy that you are looking to start every single week. Because he offers nothing on the ground, you're going to need him to throw for 302, really, to give you like at least a 20-point floor, assuming 4-point per passing touchdown leagues. So you can play Tua, but again, the upside's really tough there. You're going to probably end the season with like 50 rushing yards for him. So like you need really high passing output games, and you need to be really confident if you want to play Tua there. It'd be interesting to keep an eye on Ollie Gordon. I'm not going to play him this week unless we get like a late report that Devon Achane's not going to play, and then of course Ollie Gordon would be a must start. But going to be interesting to see what happens with Gordon. I think he'll probably get like that Raheem Mostert role, get like 10 to 15 touches, probably steal some goal line work. I'm excited to see how he looks in this offense. For the Colts, Jonathan Taylor probably the only guy you have to start for the Colts. I think Josh Downs is like a low-end flex option. I prefer to wait a week and not play either of the Colts wide receivers, him or Michael Pittman. I just don't know exactly how this receiver room is going to shake out with Daniel Jones at quarterback. Josh Downs a little bit banged up. I don't want to play him in week one right off that injury. So he's just going to eat into Pittman targets. I don't think he's healthy enough that I want to trust him, so I'm not going to play him. And then Tyler Warren, probably playing him unless you ended up with like two really high-end options. I ended up in a league where it's an auction league. I got Mark Andrews for like free. So I have Mark Andrews and Tyler Warren. I think I'm still going to play Tyler Warren over Mark Andrews this week, but that's the kind of decision you could have, and if you needed to, you could certainly consider going with someone like Andrews there, but I think Warren's a pretty solid, pretty safe bet here this week. Next, we've got a really gross game here between the Steelers and the Jets. Lowest implied total of the week. Just not a very fun matchup at all. You've got two bad offenses against two supposedly good defenses. So I don't like that at all. I think the only auto start for me in the game actually is going to be Jaylen Warren. A lot of positive reports coming out of Pittsburgh. The Jets, if you could beat them over the last couple of years, it's been through the ground game, and it sounds more and more like Jaylen Warren's going to be the clear starting running back for the Steelers. So I think you can start Jaylen Warren, especially early on in the year. You're not going to be really needing to worry about what Caleb Johnson's doing on a week-to-week basis just yet. DK Metcalf, I like him this season. He's probably in your lineup with where you drafted him, like a 5th-round pick, but definitely not a great matchup by any means. Going to be probably shadowed by Sauce Gardner. Again, with no other real pass catching weapons. When you have a good secondary against them, it's going to be pretty easy for a lot of attention to get focused on DK. So you don't need to play him. Like I am torn in a league between RJ Harvey and DK Metcalf as my flex. I think I'm going to lean RJ Harvey there. We'll touch on him later, I guess in the second part of the video here, so part 2, that'll come out on Friday. But it's a tough decision there. I think you could consider sitting DK, even though I do still like him for the season. For the Jets, Breece Hall, low-end running back 2 for me. You can play him for sure, but again, touchdown upside, certainly not there. I don't expect this to be a super high volume game. You're going to have a lot of running, slow pace of play. You're not looking at a guy that's going to probably catch 6 or 7 passes or anything like that. So upside's certainly low there for Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 3 option you can play. In PPR, you're probably playing him every single week, but again, this is a really gross game. Not very many players are going to score touchdowns in this one. I don't think you're going to have any sort of like week-winning performances out of anybody here, and if you happen to have a stacked roster, I'd kind of just look to bench everybody involved in this game. Moving on to kind of a sneaky fun game here. We've got the Panthers at the Jaguars. Really could be a lot of points scored here. You've got two really bad defenses, which is obviously super exciting from a fantasy football standpoint. For the Panthers, Tetairoa McMillan, Chuba Hubbard, they're in lineups for sure. There's no way I'd be sitting either one of those guys. I think you could do worse than streaming Bryce Young as well. Don't have to start him by any means, but I think he profiles as like a fringe QB1 this week. Not a guy you need to drop a quarterback to pick up or anything, but it'll be interesting to see what Bryce Young can do this season. I think it could be a really great start to the year for him. I'm not going to get cute and play anyone like Ja'Tavion Sanders or Xavier Legette in this matchup yet, but keep an eye on how the targets shake out for the Panthers behind Tetairoa McMillan. I think there will be value there, so just keep an eye on that for sure. For the Jaguars, Brian Thomas must start. I think Travis Hunter, very solid flex option. It'll be interesting to see how he plays, of course. I think you're going to see him primarily as an offensive player, and then he gets sprinkled in on defense. So I think you can play Travis Hunter, but again, there's a little bit of risk associated with it. We just don't know. But I think I feel pretty good about starting him in my flex spot. Travis Etienne in a full PPR, I feel pretty good about starting him. If you're in like a standard scoring league, I think you'd play Tank over Etienne, but in half or full PPR, I'd prefer to play Etienne. I don't really want to play Tank Bigsby in general, but I could easily be wrong there. So I think the best thing to do is probably just to take a wait-and-see approach with the Jaguars' backfield. But if you can't do that, I lean Etienne over Tank this week, but it's tough to really know. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Trevor Lawrence, though, feels like a great option. I think this is an opportunity for him to actually have a really solid year. If it doesn't happen for him this year, it's never going to. But great opportunity here for him. Great start against the really bad defense in Carolina. I'm probably playing Trevor Lawrence if I had him. And then again, like I mentioned, I'm probably sitting both tight ends, so I'm not going to play Sanders or Strange in this one if I can avoid it. Pretty easy one here. We've got the Cardinals at the Saints. For the Cardinals, you're starting all of them. Kyler, Connor, Marv, McBride. No need to worry about that. There is an avenue here where the Cardinals just win this game so easily that, like, maybe they have a defensive pick six. James Conner rushes one in early, and then, they just sort of slowly bleed clock and win this game really handily, and then they don't need any of the passing game. So that is a bit of a risk. You could easily see like a disappointing performance between Kyler, Marv, and McBride here. Connor feels like the safest of the options, but again, against a horrendous Saints team, there's just no way I'm sitting any one of those four. For the Saints, it's pretty easy too. Kamara, he's for sure in every single week. Chris Olave, a flex play you can play if you need to, but you don't have to, by the way. Like, you can wait and see how things shake out here. I would have no problem doing that and just waiting to see what the Saints offense looks like. And then I don't trust Shaheed just yet. I want to see this offense before I trust him. But if you have to play a Saints wide receiver, Olave is like a flex option if you need him. Next, we got the Giants at the Commanders. Malik Neighbors must start here. You're playing him every single week. Tyrone Tracy feels like a solid running back too. Sorry about that, guys. Tyrone Tracy feels like a really solid running back too. I think they're going to be a little bit concerned about what Cam Scadabo offers early on in the year, but because he missed so much training camp, I think at least to start the season, I feel pretty good about Tyrone Tracy. Talented player as well. I think people are a little bit just lower on him than they should be. That's probably it for the Giants, though. Like, I think it's going to be interesting to see how Theo Johnson slots in. We'll see how the rest of the wide receiver room shakes out. I think Russ is like a super flex option if you needed to, but like I don't want to get cute with that in a standard one quarterback league. So we'll see what happens there, but you don't need to play anyone there. For the Commanders, Jaden Daniels must start. You're probably starting Terry McLaurin, but if you happen to be stacked at wide receiver, I don't mind looking elsewhere. The matchup doesn't scare me, but like a guy having missed most of training camp coming in right in week one, it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if he had a slow start, right? So if you have a really stacked roster, you can use that as a tiebreaker to sit McLaurin here. Deebo Samuel, solid flex play. They should manufacture some touches for him. I prefer him in full PPR, but I think he'll get a lot of manufactured touches. Probably get some work out of the backfield as well. So a guy you can play if you need to. With the backfield for the Commanders, I probably would prefer to play the wait and see game here. I think if I have to play a single Commanders running back right now, I'd play Austin Eckler. He seems to have the most secure role here. Unless we get some sort of definitive report Saturday night or Sunday morning that like Ja'Cory Cross-Humeret or Bill is going to be like the clear-cut starter right away. I don't want to trust that, and there's no way I'm going to play Chris Rodriguez or McNichols or anything like that. So it seems like Eckler and nobody else, and I'd probably just prefer to play neither one of them if I can. And then next year, we got the Buccaneers at the Falcons. Another really fun one and pretty easy from a fantasy standpoint. For the Bucs, you're going to play all the major players. You're playing Bucky, Baker, Evans, and Igbuka. They all feel like must-starts here. I think if you happen to have a super stacked roster, maybe you got Igbuka in like the 7th or 8th round because your league hadn't like steamed him up yet. Then you could maybe consider benching Igbuka, but this is a fantastic matchup against Atlanta. Igbuka seems like he's primed for a massive role right away, and he's a really good player. So I would be looking to play Igbuka for sure. For the Falcons, London and Bijan, they're must-starts. There's no way you're sitting them any week. Kyle Pitts, decent streaming option here. Again, this is a really plus matchup against the Buccaneers. He's obviously a much better option if Darnell Mooney has to sit this one out with a shoulder injury. If Mooney plays, it makes Pitts a lot less entertaining, and then I'd probably just still not play Darnell Mooney. I want to see him play fully healthily before I actually trust him in my lineup, especially because it's not like you drafted Darnell Mooney to be a guy that you need to start, right? So hopefully you have something better there. And then Michael Penix, probably sitting him until we see more, but I'm excited to see what he can do with this offense. I think there's a chance that he ends up being fantasy relevant this season. So that'll do it for part 1 of this video. Up next, I will go over the final 8 games of the week, get you guys all my starts and sits for those final 8 games. And it's super exciting, guys. We've got football here. We made it. If you guys are watching this, you're probably watching this on Thursday or Friday. So super stoked. can't wait to watch football. Hopefully we get some good games on Thursday and Friday, and hopefully we can get you guys some wins in week 1. So if you guys have any specific start-sit questions, just let me know in the comments below. I've done a really good job of getting back to every single one of you guys that's commented on the video, so I will get you guys an answer if you guys have a start-sit question. Beyond that, if you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's going to be a ton of content every single week. We're going to do waivers. We're going to do trade targets. We're going to do starts and sits. We're going to do streams of the week. All sorts of really fun stuff. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel that we don't miss that. I'll be here all season long to help you guys win some championships. And hopefully we have a lot of fun along the way. So I appreciate you guys. If you made it this far in the video, give it a thumbs up. Hype it up. And then, yeah, I appreciate you guys. I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.